Hey there, in this video we're going to cover two great exercises to isolate your abs. When it comes to isolating your abs, or when it comes to isolating any muscle, it's very important to isolate that joint action of the function of the muscle. So here the rectus abdominis flexes the lumbar. So we want to isolate the joint action, lumbar flexion. So these two exercises, I'm going to be giving you lots of form cues on how to make that happen. Also, I'm going to be coming out with a part 2 that's going to focus a lot more on training that transverse abdominis, a very important and underlooked muscle. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that video. First exercise we're going to do here is we're going to do a weighted crunch. So with this one, it's very important to get as much flexion as possible in the lumbar. So basically, you want to round the lumbar here as much as possible and get up with as little flexion in the hips as possible. You can also flex the thoracic a little bit so that upper back can round too, but try to limit that if you can. Now it's very important for the feet to be flat on the ground pointing straight ahead, for the knees to be pointing straight ahead, for the hips to stay on the same spot of the mat, and for the hips to not flex, and for the neck not to round up, but also not be arched either. Alright, so a less advanced version here would be to just do the crunch here without the weight. So just do it body weight like this. So same thing here. You want to move up by getting as much flexion as possible in the lumbar. Now a beginner's version here would be to do this crunch with the cable assisting you. So same thing on the form. The lumbar's the main thing that moves. It flexes, so you come up like that. Do not move the cable down toward you by moving the shoulder back or by bending the elbow. And again, the feet, knees, hips, and neck do not move at all. Alright, so the next exercise you're going to do here is an isometric hold weighted crunch. So the only difference between this one here and the one before is you're just going to hold that lumbar into flexion rather than having that lumbar going from flexion to extension. It's pretty much the same exercise except you're just holding it. Now this exercise will only be necessary for you if you have an anterior pelvic tilt, if you have a lower back arch in your squat form, or if in your pushing and pulling form the lower back arches too. Otherwise, if you don't have any of those misfunctions when it comes to posture and form assessments, just stick to the first exercise and don't worry about this one here. The purpose of this one is more towards corrective exercise, specifically fixing an anterior pelvic tilt. To find out if you have any of those things and how to fix those things, click the top right corner of the video, which will take you to my squat form, posture, and upper body fitness assessments playlist. So just go through one playlist at a time. Now, if you're really struggling to keep your form together with the weight, just try it here, body weight without the weight, and really focus on keeping that lumbar flexed as much as possible. Now, this exercise right here would be an example of a beginner's version of the isometric crunch hold. So just a few more things to keep in mind here is the higher the weight is, the easier it will be to perform this exercise. And there is a threshold where if you get to too much weight, you'll absolutely be doing no work because the weight pulling you up will be more than your body weight pulling you down. Now, when doing any of these versions of the isometric hold crunch, it's very important that as you fatigue, you keep that lumbar flexed, that you don't let that back straighten out and just round that neck up, making this be a deep cervical flexor workout over working your rectus abdominis. Also remember that this isometric hold crunch is only a must if you have an anterior pelvic tilt. Alright, the next exercise we're going to do here is the lumbar decline sit-up. And yeah, I made up that name because the lumbar is getting through the full range of motion. The lumbar starts off fully extended and it fully flexes on the way up. So I prefer this exercise over the decline sit-up machine because that's just going to put those hips into a lot more extension on the way down, and then those hips will flex a lot on the way up. Here we got very little to no movement in the hips with tons of movement in the lumbar, getting it from full extension on the way down to full flexion on the way up. Now, when performing this exercise, start off with that lower back arched and then round it as much as possible on the way up. So we're getting that lumbar from full extension to full flexion. Now, make sure those hips stay at the top of the balance trainer throughout the entire range of motion. Make sure those feet stay flat on the ground and that those knees and feet point straight ahead and that neck doesn't round up, that the neck stays neutral throughout the entire range of motion. Now, if you can do these things exactly the way I said, you'll be isolating a joint action, lumbar flexion, and that joint action will be going through its full range of motion from full lumbar extension to full lumbar flexion. And the function of the rectus abdominis is to flex the lumbar. So you should see a lot more results when it comes to developing your abs when doing this exercise if you follow all the form cues I gave you here. Now, a less advanced version of this lumbar decline sit-up would be to just do it without the resistance. So just do it body weight and your body weight will be the resistance. And same things here on the form. Now, a beginner's version of this exercise would be to have a cable to assist you on the way up. Now, remember here, the heavier the weight is on the cable, the easier it will be to perform this exercise. And make sure you keep those elbows extended the whole time. Alright, so a quick recap of what we went through is you got your regular crunch. You got your one where the cable assists you, the beginner version. You got the intermediate one with just body weight. And then you got your advanced one where you can add weight to it. You got your isometric hold version of the crunch. And you got those 3 different levels, the cable assisting you, body weight, and adding resistance. And remember, those versions are only necessary if you have an anterior pelvic tilt. And you got your lumbar decline sit-up with the same 3 levels again, the cable assisting you, body weight, and adding weight as resistance. For more information on fixing your anterior pelvic tilt, go check out my posture playlist and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on my transverse abdominis video coming out soon.